Hi gang, another YouTube video today, and before I get into it, I just wanted to basically just give you guys a bit of an update. So this year my goal is to be doing a YouTube video a week. Well, that hasn't worked. It's been a really busy year so far, so I've just not been keeping it up as much as I should. Yeah, but I have, however, started to contribute a lot more to my Instagram account, so that's getting quite regular updates. Yeah, so feel free to go and check that out. Yeah, so the main reason why I've been so busy is because some of you will know that I play in a band based in London, and it's called 5 Points Gang. We're like a blues band, I suppose, loosely you'd say blues. Yeah, and we've been really pushing hard to get more work, and it's coming in. It's looking like 2020 is going to be a good year for us. I'll put a link to that project so you can go and check that out. We've got a separate YouTube channel for it, and there's a website, and recently we've uploaded to Spotify and iTunes and all that kind of thing, and there's a complete list of gigs on the website, so you can maybe come and see us in person or something sometime soon if you fancy it. My last upload was a general video about how to play the 12-bar blues. One of my subscribers recently got in touch and requested some additional information, and this was intended to be a group of videos dedicated to this topic. So yeah, one of you guys, Alan Prince, hi Alan, thanks for getting in touch with me. Alan got in touch, and he's taken up guitar recently, and he's looking to explore 12-bar blues rhythm work, I think. A lot of the stuff that I did, the examples that I gave in the previous video, were bar chords. And Alan's requested that I go over a few things for open 12-bar blues, played in either E or A. And a side note on that actually is I've noticed I've been gaining subscribers quite nicely recently. I think I'm up to sort of 260 something subscribers, which sounds really not, I know it's not a big YouTube channel and it probably won't be a big channel, but the subscribers that I've got, you guys, are really communicative. I wake up most mornings to like a nice comment or somebody asking a question. Quite a few of you now have bought pickups and put them in your guitars based on some of the other videos that I've done, the gear demos and things. Actually, Seymour Duncan have made quite a lot of money out of me. I really appreciate that. So even though we're not a huge bunch, I feel like this channel is really active and I'm making new friends. And it's really nice when people check out my channel header and they friend me on Facebook, or they check me out on Instagram. And I've met some nice new people that way. And even then, really completely closing the circle, coming to see a gig or something, it really helps, and it's really nice to have this personal relationship with you guys. I really appreciate it. So anyway, what we're doing today. Basically, Alan asked me in particular about Pride and Joy, which is a Stevie Ray shuffle, and he's also into some shuffles by Jimmie Vaughan as well. So I thought what we do today is go through those kinds of styles, but I'm not going to try and imitate them exactly, because I don't think that's the point of playing blues ultimately. But yeah, I just thought we'd talk about the basic techniques and the feel of those things, and then maybe we'll have a little look at the embellishments within the sequence that have been traditionally used and how to place them and what the timing of them should be, or how to think about it. That's what I'm more interested in exploring, is how to think about this, rather than a prescriptive, like, here's, note for note, the whole of Pride and Joy. I don't see the point in doing that. I do think it's valid to explore alternative styles and ways of playing a shuffle. The two brothers, Jimmie Vaughan and Stevie Ray, they are a great pair to study because they are polar opposites in their style. Jimmie and Stevie comprehensively cover Texas blues, and all of its derivatives. It's quite a nice opportunity actually for me to show off the Strat again. So I've got the classic stack pluses in the neck and the middle, and I've got the hot stack plus in the bridge. It's a good pick up, the hot stack plus, but for live work I'm not sure. I really like the tone of it, but it's not very good for harmonics. Pinched harmonics don't really want to come out of it. So I'm contemplating my options now, whether I go whole hog and go for a hot rails or something else. I really like the Damasio Norton. But so maybe something like that, like a medium output but aggressive sort of humbucker that's got really good pinched harmonics. I've never quite played anything like a Norton. Yeah, if you've got any ideas though about what I should maybe consider swapping to, yeah, leave them in the comments. So today what we've got on here is I'm going straight into the Marshall in the drive channel, but I've got the drive turned down. I've gone for quite a bright sound because we're going to be doing rhythm work today. There's a bit of grit in it, and then what I've done is I've added a bit of, there's reverb on the amp, and I've added a bit of delay on the TC flashback, and it's a very fast delay just to give it a bit of that old school vibe. So here's without the delay. And here's with the delay. Yeah, it just fattens it up a little bit. Let's have a look at this Stevie Vaughan thing then. So he's kind of unique in the way that he approaches rhythm work, because he had this way of doing everything all at once. So it sounded like he was playing rhythm work, licks, lead work, everything. Let's start off with a basic way of playing a Stevie Ray shuffle. And for today, I think we're just going to stick with everything being in open E. Now, I am in E flat here, so you may want to knock your guitar down a semitone or half a step. I'll give you one note. I did think about retuning, but I just prefer playing the guitar this way. So tough, you're all going to have to retune instead. Pride and joy, I'm not going to go into the whole... That's not within the scope of this, well, it's not a lesson, is it, but this guide today. You know, basic 12 bar then is, you know... So what is this? I mean, I've been trying to figure out what this actually is, but it's an E5 chord. And then basically the 5 rises to a 6th. Is that a major 6? Yeah, a major 6. Yeah. You don't have to play the triad when you're playing this, so you can get away with just playing the bottom 2 strings. I mean, you could argue that you should be playing... But no one really does that. And I think, you know, it doesn't really make any difference. It's rough and ready, it is blues. So, you know, I never really bother with that, apart from some embellishments that we might get onto later in this video. But yeah, you can see basically it's all downstrokes. There's some muting going on here, and I'm not going to go into exactly how to mute this. You'll find a way to do it yourself, you know? But basically... So this would be the final change now. We'd be going up to the B. Okay, so that's the basic sequence. Now, you know, Alan, I know that one of the issues that you've got is barring chords. Like, that's something that's perhaps a little bit difficult for you at the moment. So obviously, this B is quite a big stretch. It's quite a difficult chord to play, really. There are ways around this, though, so we'll get to that. So yeah, that's the nature of it, of the basic sequence. So Stevie Ray quite often played that kind of 12-bar rhythm work. Usually, when he was playing kind of straight with downstrokes like that, it would be more of the sort of... So he tended to do more, I seem to remember anyway, he tended to play more of that sort of tighter rhythm work when he was playing up the neck and playing bar chord rhythm, so it would be in B or A or something like that. But one of his really distinctive things was how he played a 12 bar in E. I'm going to demonstrate a little bit of the basic way that he did that. So, as a quick example of how we would approach something like that. So, you can hear straight away, it's not that tight rhythm work that perhaps, you know, I showed you earlier on. This is a much more open thing. And what he's really doing here is, I suppose you could argue he's kind of playing the notes that you'd expect in a bass line. It's a bit like that, isn't it? Is he thinking like that? I don't know, but those are the notes. So, I mean, they're all major scale, really, aren't they? But that is quite similar to what some bass players would play in a 12-bar sequence, you know, a happy kind of sounding blues. But it's also based on some embellishments that are natural within the sequence. Maybe the best thing to do here is to go over those embellishments and then look at the style of how he was doing it. Okay, cool. Yeah, let's do that. I'm sorry for this slightly disorganized nature. We're going to be on a journey in this video as these ideas come to me because I can't really plan this. Because I've never really thought about it. You just absorb these things, don't you? So, let's have a look at, before we get into this whole, this style thing is a little bit weird and we need to talk about that, but first I think I need to tell you about some of these embellishments. So, the basic rhythm work would be this. So there's one embellishment straight away that is really, really common, okay? So that's different, isn't it? Okay, so it takes twice as long as the regular thing. So basically it's sliding up a semitone to the 7th, minor 7th. So I suppose it adds tension. Oh, I don't want to get into all the music theory. I'm going to start talking about why that adds tension and everything, but you don't need to know that. And you can throw it in whenever you want. So you can chuck it in, you know, before a change, for example. Yeah? So that was just one on its own. So you could chuck it in a couple of times. And it works in exactly the same way. This is why this sequence in E is a really good one to work on, because basically everything just goes up a string. And then we've got the change. We'll get to that in a minute. So that's one embellishment, right? Let's call that figure 1 if we were doing, you know, this. And it's a really nice one. It's one that I really like. I use a lot. But you get to a point where you don't think about it anymore. So it won't be like, oh, we're doing a 12-bar and it's going to be that way. It's just kind of what you feel on the night. For me, anyway, that's what I think. Let's have a look at another embellishment then. Okay, so here we go, another embellishment then. So this is, yeah, we're going from a minor to a major third, I suppose. So, I mean, there are T-Bird songs with that rhythm working, and it's formally like written into the song. And you can put it on either side, so either side of you could put it either side of the bar. Is it a bar? I'm not quite sure, but you could start off with. Or you could start with it, this embellishment. It's got a different feel. Again, you can just chuck it in, you know, whenever you like. Yeah, another way of doing it would be so there's that little one as well, which is just G with a little tweak on it. Of course, because everything is shuffling, it's not, we're keeping everything tight, like I talked about that in the first episode. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. only done like 2 things here, but the real fun comes when you mix them up. So this is when you really start to sound like you know what you're doing in a 12-bar sequence. Yeah, so you've got all of that choice just with those 3 things there. Where do we go from here? What other ones are there? Okay, so I'm just going to talk about some of the ones that I do. So, yeah, I tend to think of like, so that basic sort of 5th to a 6th rhythm, you know, is the same thing very repetitively over and over again. But if you reference or highlight the root note, so before I was talking about not playing the whole chord, but a very subtle thing you can do is reference that octave E sort of in between. So it would be, so now to me this sequence is no longer going bam ba bam ba bam ba bam. It's going bam bam ba bam ba bam ba. It's kind of a bit like, but with that. But it's not. That's too obvious. So okay. This is down the rabbit hole, isn't it? Once I start doing this lesson's going to be an hour long again, isn't it? Maybe that's what I'm doomed to do. It's like, I don't do a video for 6 weeks, and I do one that's about 2 hours long, about 1 chord. Jesus. Okay. So, yeah, so in order to play that, I mean, this must be very difficult to watch. I haven't got any other cameras at the moment. I'm a poor musician, so I can't do close-ups and things. But, you know, hopefully the quality's all right. So, in that there, for example, what I'm doing, that's my finger position when I'm playing the main chord. And then what I'm doing is I'm slipping off that A string, playing the B on the A string there. And I'm on the D string. Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong side of the camera again. But I'm muting the A string. So I'm not, you could play that, but I tend not to. I tend to sort of do this weird muting thing where that's muted and that's not muted. And there are subtle things happening with this hand, but basically, yeah, I'm getting that by just hitting through a little bit more than I would when I'm just playing the normal. So I don't know, that's a feel thing. I don't know how much better I can explain that. I mean, all of these techniques, they require quite complicated muting to get them, to sell them, like, as we want them to sound. So even like, you know, in that there, I'm subtly taking my... So you could play it by keeping your finger on everything all the time. Which is great, actually, it sounds really good. So even in that, or... Can you hear the difference in those 2 things there? There's a bit of muting going on in the second one. The reason why I'm telling you all of this is because if you want to get to... That is a really... All of these things are in that. So I'm trying to teach you the things that you need to know before you get to that. Because that, I don't know if you can see, but if you look at the amount of work my left hand is doing, there's muting going on with my right hand. It's a very complicated thing to play. that's hard. So I'm trying to teach you what Stevie Ray Vaughan would have gone through to get to be able to play that rhythm that convincingly, you know? So you start off with, and then you work up to things like, yeah, so all of these kind of repetitions and changes. There's one that I'm playing there, so let's teach you that one. So that is, I don't know if that is used by anyone else. It might be one that I just worked out. But that's just, I'm just playing open A, hammering onto the B, and the E. So you can hear there's this yeah, so that's one of mine. But rather than it just being, you now got notes moving around. And you can get a lot more complicated with that. You know, I've experimented with some really complicated sort of. Yeah, so I'm trying to say that you can create movement with the notes. Yeah, that's what Stevie Ray Vaughan did. Okay, right. So another one would be, look at how many things, this is what I keep trying to say to people. We've done, basically, that's all we've done, those notes there. My hand's hardly moving, and look at how many derivatives and variations you can get, which all create tension in the music and stop it being boring. They make things, you know, we haven't even got, I could go on for days, but like if you start putting more of those variations in towards the end of a sequence, and then you clamp down when a sequence turns around, you sort of, here we go. So what I was doing there was, towards the end of the sequence, I was putting in lots of embellishments, increasing the number of embellishments, and then at the turnaround, something happens. It's bang, you know, it gives you this real, yeah, crack in the back, as they used to say. So what I'm trying to say there is, it's not just for keeping interest over the period of a bar or a couple of bars, but you can actually use these things to think structurally about a song or a piece of music. You know, we'll get onto Jimmie Vaughan later, but if you check out Robbing Me Blind off Have You Got the Blues, I think that is one of the finest shuffles I've ever heard. And if you listen, the band sounds like they don't change anything. Every sequence sounds identical, and yet it lifts every time. And it's because of these tiny, minuscule details that's why that happens. I've met George Raines, who drummed on that song. I've talked to him about it. I've met Jimmie Vaughan, and it's these tiny details that make that pop. That groove just bounces and it seems to go up, but it doesn't lift every time. It's just the band. There's only 4 people on that recording, and they all understand all of these things. They all understand by choosing how that cadence at the end happens and how you build the sequence through the 12 bars. I think that one actually might be a 10 bar or something, but same difference. But they understand that you can reset every time. And it just kicks up a gear. It feels like it kicks up a gear. And that's an example of how to do that. Okay, so one further embellishment is the introduction of an E major chord, right? So, yeah, standard E chord here. But obviously an A chord is that. So there's a cadence here, okay? It's one that's used all the time when people are playing blues. So I'm playing the D and the G strings, okay? So it's the E note on the D string, and it's the A note on the G string. So to play together as a double stop or dyad. Yeah, and then the note on the G string drops one semitone, but the note on the D string stays the same. So you're going essentially from an A chord to an E major chord. Okay. Okay, so it's starting to sound a bit Stevie Ray now, isn't it? Now, little interesting technical thing about how to play that. So you're playing now. There, I'm actually reverting to. My hands are a bit funny, so you know you can just. You've got to find a way to do it, basically, is what I'm trying to say. You might, I mean, I quite like it when it resolves to an E7, because that is the same as this note. This is the Jimmie Vaughan bit that I didn't want to get into later on, but there's another way. So in the same way as I was playing the root note, I can play the 7th. Which is interesting because that doesn't sound the same as that. Yeah? But what's happening with all of these things, so I got sidetracked again, there's this movement that's going on with my right hand. Can you see that? I'm not playing. I'm playing. I'm doing that with there. That's the whole point of me trying to show you that. It's the worst lesson in the world. So, although I'm skipping a string, technically this is string skipping, this is blues, and I'm not worried if I hit the other strings. That doesn't bother me. And, you know, I'll be on stage and I'll be playing it like this. So, I'm not worried if I hit the strings, but there's muting going on, there's left hand going on. So, left hand muting going on. So I'm probably muting that A string. Yeah, this is all quite locked down. So if I analyse it, and actually quite often I'll play that'll go from that string to the A string further down. I don't know if you can see this. My middle finger's in the way. But yeah, so there's two things there. There's a bit of muting going on. I'm never really letting go of these strings. I'm kind of on them all the time. And maybe that's a good exercise actually, is just put your hand on the fingerboard and get used to that feeling. You know? It's not, it's dead. Yeah, I mean, even then I'm hitting everything. So yeah, this is a feel thing, and I think so that was the same things that I'm just. This is all transposable up to A. You just move up the string. Not going to do the turnaround. Yeah. Yeah, so that was just me playing the. So that again is just barring across to the A. And it's not really. I mean, you could say that it's a suspended fourth. Is it? Is that what it would be? A suspension? I think it is. Or no. is it, what's the other one that's not a suspension? It's, I can't remember what it's called. Augmented, because you're pushing a third up to the fourth. So this would be the E major chord. Same chord, but same thing. So, but it gives the same feel of... Yeah, let's not deal with the turnaround yet. Let's just deal with the first two bits. So, in trying to understand Pride and Joy, all those tools, that mess of information that I just gave you, you need to understand those things, because that's what Stevie Ray understood. Okay, so yeah. Hopefully now these things make a bit more sense. So the riff starts off with, we know this. So if we're going to play it without his crazy style that he's doing, which we'll get onto in a minute. And he puts in the, okay, so it would be like this. Now, yeah, okay, let's play it a bit more controlled. Yeah, so that's the basic riff that he's playing. And also, when he plays this, he's not just playing a dyad, he quite often plays the full thing. Nasty, full chord, maybe even it's a seventh chord with just the two. Okay, so let's get into how he does it. So, just as we were talking about separating out, there's like two movements there. Well, he introduces this whole other thing as well as separating out what he's playing. So, good luck learning this. Right, so okay, so it's an up and down stroke style that he's employing here, isn't it? Okay, and the biggest thing that you'll notice is there's this noise, which happens on the ba-bum, 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 so it's on the offbeat, and that literally is this is the genius of Stevie Ray. It's basically all of the strings played open. So you need to get used to this, right, and find out a way of doing it. And one thing I can tell you is, it's not controlled. You cannot sit here and go, doesn't sound right, you've got to play with attitude. So, 1, 2, 3, 4. You've got to get that feel. You've got to be able to hit the strings. You know, obviously you don't want to be breaking strings, but, you know, I'm using a 4mm pick I'm doing this here, so it's possible, you know, if you're using like something more sensible than this ridiculous thing, which is a prototype actually, then, you know, you should be able to get this down. And then it's about integrating it in, and maybe you can start slowly. I've got to play the... Okay, so yeah, that's the thing. It's quite repetitive. All these, you know, yeah, this is what we've been talking about for the last 45 minutes. Yeah, I don't know if I can really tell you any more about how to be able to play that, but it's, rather than trying to tell you how to mute something, like I've got my ways of muting it. I find this quite difficult to play. I haven't played this for years, particularly when it moves to the A, because I find it quite difficult to mute the E string. And Stevie is hitting almost all of the strings all the time. So look at this here, right? Look at that one note, okay? I'm doing, so I haven't moved my hand there. Everything is muted. I'm muting the E string, the bottom E string with my middle finger. Actually, I'm muting everything with my middle finger. It's just resting on the strings, but heavy enough to cause that. And it adds this percussion, which is what he had. This is why he didn't need a bass player or a drummer. And actually his bass player and drummer were never that rhythmic, because he was providing so much rhythm. That sounds so much more rhythmical than... So if we just played it... Yeah, so all of those notes is almost everything being hit. That's the thing about Stevie. But they're being... So there... Those are all muted. It's all muted there. So that's a difficult one to mute. That's a difficult one to mute because I'm hitting all the strings, but if you listen. And the difficult part about that one is I'm muting the bottom E string by pushing my finger against it. There. Yeah? So as you work your way up this riff, because you're spreading across 3 strings here, aren't you? That's on the bottom E. Yeah? So not only do you have to mute the strings above where you're playing, you have to mute the strings below where you're playing as well. I don't know how I learned this. Yeah, right. So like Stevie Ray was almost thumb over the top almost all the time. I'm not. I play with my thumb behind the neck most of the time, right? But he was like this. So he was always able, and like Hendrix did the same thing, to mute there. But I don't do that. But I have to do it when it comes to playing that note there. The only way that I can mute the A string and the E string is to use the same technique. So I'm playing that string. So I'm playing the D string. And I'm muting the A string with that finger. And then a thumb comes over to mute the bottom E. So I have to bring my hand around to do it. So what we end up there with... And you will get little rings out of other strings. You know, I'm getting... But they're not very strong. Okay? Yeah, and that is being regulated by the left hand. I'm not muting that with my right hand, okay? All that is just being, so it's left hand, this is all this left hand muting. This is going to be very difficult for people to, but it's something to work towards. It's ridiculously hard. I'm not really sure if I can give you any more information about that. I need to watch it back. But maybe if there are any questions you've got about this style, I think the way to do it is you ask me questions in the comments and I will try to answer them. I don't think it's right to get into too many of the really complicated embellishments or the intro. Again, my object is not really to try and teach you to play Pride and Joy. It's just to help you to understand that rhythm work. Let's put a generic Stevie Ray kind of thing to the end of this sequence. So, because there's something that I think maybe in the next lesson, what we could do is we could so we've looked at like rhythm work embellishments. Why am I calling this a lesson? It's not a lesson, sorry, it's not intended to be a lesson. But I've covered some of these little embellishments, but there are then, if you want to take it up a notch, you know, to get to these guys' level, It's about knowing when to put the licks in. Yeah, so but I think that kind of stuff is outside the scope of what I'm trying to demonstrate in this video. It's probably like a step too far. But like putting licks in to a 12-bar rhythm work is, yeah, the timing of them and all of that. Let's leave that for another video. So let's just try and round off this sort of Stevie Ray 12-bar thing that we're doing. So we've got up to the so what would normally happen in a normal 12 bar is you go up to the beat. Something like that. Now, Alan, this is aimed at you. If one of the issues you have is a bar chord thing at the moment, bar chord racka racka is too difficult, and Stevie wouldn't really have played this in this kind of rhythm work. He probably wouldn't have gone. He probably wouldn't have done that. So let's show you a couple of different alternatives. There is one which I'm going to do some Jimmie Vaughan style rhythm work after this bit, which we'll cover quite quickly, hopefully, because it should be a bit easier. And there is a workaround that I can show you in that. So when you're going up to the B, quite often he would have played a B7 chord, which is, it looks a bit like a 9, so a full 9 chord would be. But quite often these guys would just play, you know, so it's actually not too dissimilar to an E chord, really, is it? If you look at it, A string playing a B, D string playing D sharp, G string playing A. And the benefit of this chord, which a lot of these guys used to use, was the open string is B. Okay. So something like that. You could just play to get out of the sequence. Quite often they'll play. Okay. So, or they'll play like an arpeggiated version of that. And generally, this would have like a hammer on. So you'd hammer on this note here is the third of B. So if you know anything about sort of blues soloing, you'll know, and like the you know, it's not straight pentatonics, it's the blues scale, which you have this minor to major thing. That hammer-on thing. People generally don't just play the major third. It's usually a sort of a hammer-on. So this is a similar kind of idea. Okay, so let's use that. So okay, so I shouldn't have played that like that. Something like that, maybe. There's that B7 chord again. So that B that I played when we went up to the 5th. So yeah, there's a little bit of a drag going there. Okay, so is there do I need to say any more about this? So that's one way of doing it. If you need more information about that, I'll do more information about it. Another thing that he used to do was play a bass line, and this happens in lots of Stevie Ray shuffles. So we'll just go back from. Yeah, so that is a fairly simple sort of run, and he's doing his when he's playing. one, isn't it? That's a good, easy one to play. So, yeah, basically, it's a sort of a major run, almost. G flat, A flat, A, B flat, B. And there's a change now, it goes down slightly different. We miss the B flat, but the other notes are the same. So that's what keeps this thing going, isn't it? Yeah, okay, that's the sequence. I mean, let's say then the next episode of this thing is going to be things like oh, that was so bad. So those sorts of things, you know, it's the end of the sequence. Stevie would often have played those more complicated sections there. In fact, they were integral to his songwriting. And you think of I mean, he wrote whole songs. I haven't played this sort of guitar playing for ages, so I'm not very good at it. I'm sorry. Yeah, but you know, these were big parts of his songwriting, these sort of licks, this incidental guitar playing, which in Stevie's case wasn't that incidental, was it? It was pretty full on. Okay, so what we're going to do now is, I've spent far too long talking about the way he played Pride and Joy, or that kind of Stevie Ray Vaughan shuffle. Yeah, what we're going to do now is we're going to look at a Jimmie Vaughan shuffle, which is much easier. There are lots of Jimmie Vaughan shuffles, and I'm not going to pick one song. And this kind of Jimmie Vaughan shuffle would have been from his T-Birds era. He doesn't play this kind of thing anymore. He plays very differently to this, but I tend to think of the great Jimmie Vaughan rhythm work was well, some of it was with the T-Birds. He's just great, isn't he? But so completely different style to Stevie. Okay, we'll do that one. So this is going to be really simple. So there's none of this crazy stuff that Stevie was doing. He was quite open with his right hand, so there wasn't loads of muting going on, but it was still quite controlled. And Jimmie Vaughan's shuffles, in general, are much more minimalist. There's less going on in them, but he makes those notes, you know, jump out. But it's his timing as well. So he would quite often play, rather than like full chords, you know, Jimmie Vaughan quite liked dyads and quite punchy single note lines. So he was quite happy to finish a 12 bar like that, rather than the sort of like... yeah, he wouldn't be so articulate as Stevie or you know, complicated. In fact, there's not much really to tell you, but the interesting thing about Jimmie Vaughan, there's something I've only ever heard him do, and I've never heard anybody else do it. So when he goes up to the fifth at the end of the sequence, where most people would play B, he just decides to get rid of that bar, right? So it's really discordant, this is. So he does that, and it's a really cool thing. The reason I picked this is because if you don't want to play a bar, there's a really authentic, cool way of doing it without that. So he just basically takes, when we're playing the fourth, we're playing the A, it's the A string open, and then it's the fifth, which is E, rising up a whole tone. Well, obviously, when you're barring the chord, I mean, I'm don't have to bar this because there's a nut there, but we just slide it up 2 frets, right? But he gets rid of that bar, so everything else stays exactly the same. Okay, so it's very cool because it sounds discordant, but it works. And another thing he will do is okay, so this is the change from the B back down to the A. So remember before we talked about pattern that we had. Okay, well he's just, instead of starting on, it's almost like he's finishing that thought. Yeah, so it's like he was playing, but it's, super easy. It's the same shape. Look, yeah. I think it's a really cool thing, and it's cool because you've got chromaticism happening here. He's resolving from the B back to that A. So the B with this A in it, which is like the 7th of the chord, and it sounds really discordant because it's at the bottom of the chord. So it's like a 4th inversion, I think. Now you could just play it normal, but there's something about yeah, okay, so this run I'm playing is a sort of a generic Jimmie Vaughan minimalist kind of run at the end of the sequence. Okay, so yeah, pentatonic, you don't have to play it. You could just play like that if you wanted to. I mean, he wouldn't really have done that, but it's okay. You do whatever you want, whatever you can physically do, and make it your own. Yeah. So I mean, in terms of the bits that Jimmie Vaughan would add, they'd be really simple. So again, using this major third. So all that is, and Jimmie Vaughan was more stripped out than Stevie, so you wouldn't have necessarily, that's not really his sound. So he just goes with the 2 notes, the G string and the B string, starting open, 1 finger, that's all that is. So there's a bit of work to do to get from those 2 things. So again, there's this thing going on where I'm going. There's that note before the accent. Yeah, I'm not playing. You're keeping the rhythm going, and that's the genius here. You're better off if you can't get to that. Like if you were jamming with friends or playing at a jam night or something, you're better off if you can't keep the rhythm going. Don't play that. Just play we've already found out there are lots of other nice easy things to do. But it's really important that you've got to have that, because the point of this at the end of the day is you are playing rhythm work and you have to keep the rhythm going. So yeah, work on it though, and remember you've got a bit more time than you think you have as well, because you've got that note in between. I don't have to be on that chord there. I can actually take my fingers off. If you look, I'm moving my hand when I'm playing that thing to get there. And there's another one of those. So you've got more time than you think you've got. Okay, you might think, oh, I've got to move really, but you haven't. You've got a note in between that's allowing you to make that movement. So again, typically minimalist Jimmie Vaughan, when he moves up to the A, right? This is so cool. So I mean that major third, that's saying we're in E. Okay, now if you drop a major third, that goes very well. I mean, technically in the key of E, that is now a minor third, and that references the A, which we're changing to, which happens to be also the open string. Okay, so that's actually an A7 now because we're playing a G in the A chord. But yeah, it's more important that it's the minor third of the root. That's the way I tend to think about it. So in E, that is a minor third, and that's the way I tend to think about it. I don't think majors and minors like this, but that's how it works. I see it as, you know, it's a tension, and then when you go back to the E, it resolves. It makes you, yeah, we're back in E again. So this is all about, any sequence has cadences in it, and there are many different kinds of cadence. You know, so I'm not going to go into all cadences and things, but that's what's happening there. So in typical minimalist Jimmie Vaughan fashion, instead of playing when he's playing in E, he changes, and then he just plays the D note where he's playing an E, which is, and then he just opens up and plays the open string. Okay, so okay, right. So yeah, I hope that's clear. Okay, so yeah, it's a different strings as well. It's the D and the G string when he's in A. The G and the B strings when he's in E. So the last point that I'm going to make, this video has already gone on way too long, is Jimmie Vaughan's rhythm is slightly dragged. He slightly drags behind the beat. So it sounds slightly late. And if you watch the previous video, I go on at length about how, you know, there's a shuffle and a shuffle, and how far you squeeze those notes together, those offbeat notes together closer to the next note, creates a different effect. But I always feel you have to listen to if you go back and listen to some early T-Bird stuff where he's playing a shuffle like this, you'll hear it dragging. He's slightly behind the beat, and it's super cool. It's just, it's really lovely. Maybe if I tap my foot. I don't know if you can hear that. I'm not doing it justice probably, but it drags, particularly when he goes up to the fifth. Yeah, man, it's just got a thing in it. He drags it. It's a tiny, tiny difference, you know, but it's different to the way Eric Clapton would play it, or the way I don't know, Robert Cray would play it or whatever. And it's his thing. It's really distinctive to me anyway. One final word is, like, both Stevie and Jimmie would have finished 12 bars with licks like, but Jimmie tended not to do so many of the, now by that I mean, Stevie was all about pull-offs and hammer-ons and all those kinds of things, and Jimmie does those, but not as much. He would play it straighter and pick notes. Stevie would be really flamboyant and play, yeah, that sort of thing there. Whereas Jimmie Vaughan would play less notes, but he would do it with timing. So that's beautiful. Like, that's a very Jimmie Vaughan thing to do. And he's sitting on a flat 5, like in blues. He's just sitting on that horrible, horrible note, which sounds so great. That's the note that he chooses to leave, to let hang there. I think that's just about it. I think we're just on the edge of starting to get into those licks. You know, there are lots of ways to finish a 12 bar. The simplest of which would be sort of like a, but then that gets a bit more complicated with, and that can change the, yeah. I think we'll call it a day at that. Badly played, but that's a Stevie Ray one, and a Jimmie Vaughan shuffle. Next time we'll get into well, whatever anybody who's watching this video wants to get into, other styles of rhythm work maybe, and maybe some more of the complex ways of ending a 12-bar sequence, or some of the other incidental standard licks that go in. I could do the same thing, maybe, I don't know, in a different key. Maybe we could do it in A. Which again has got quite a nice dynamic, because when you do the turnaround, you're dropping down to the E chord, you know, which is the 5th, which gives the whole 12 bar a slightly different vibe. Yeah, okay, probably way too long. Sorry about that, but yeah, if you're interested in anything more about what I'm doing, I'll stick a link to the band. Feel free to check us out, and yeah, thanks again, guys, for all your really nice comments and getting in touch. I really appreciate it. And if you enjoyed this content, please check out the rest of my content and hit like or subscribe. Yeah, that would be good. Thank you, because, you know, subscribers means that my life is worth living and I'm a successful person. Yeah, take it easy. Thank you very much.